As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm but eerie glow over the sandy expanse of Sandstone Beach, Mark wandered along the shoreline, his flip-flops slapping against the damp sand. The air was thick with the scent of saltwater and the distant echoes of seagulls shrieking in the fading light. He felt a peculiar tug at his curiosity when he stumbled upon an old wooden signpost, half buried in the sand. The faded letters read Lily's Cove, a name that resonated with mystery in the small seaside town. "Hey, guys! Check this out," he called, beckoning to his friends, Emily and Jake, who were busy capturing the sunset with their cameras. They made their way over, drawn by Mark's excitement. "What's up?" Emily asked, brushing her long hair away from her face and peering at the sign. "Lily's Cove. I wonder if there's a story behind it," Mark replied, a hint of intrigue in his voice. "Probably just another local legend," Jake shrugged, snapping a picture of the horizon. Determined to dig deeper, Mark scanned the beach until his eyes landed on a nearby shack, its weathered wood and shattered windows suggesting long-abandoned secrets. "Let's check out that old beach house. Maybe we can find some information." "Are you sure it's safe?" Emily hesitated, glancing at the dilapidated structure. "Come on, it'll be fun. What's the worst that could happen?" Mark replied with a mischievous grin, already leading the way. The trio approached the house cautiously, the floorboards creaking ominously underfoot as they stepped inside. Dust motes danced in the fading light, and the scent of mold lingered in the air. Mark's heart raced with excitement and a touch of fear. "Look at this!" Jake exclaimed, pointing to a pile of old newspapers strewn across a rickety table. Mark leaned closer, his eyes widening as he read an article detailing the mysterious disappearance of a local girl named Lily, who vanished 20 years ago without a trace. Witnesses claimed to have seen her wandering toward the cove on the night of her disappearance, he read aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. "Creepy," Emily said, her brow furrowing. "I wonder if she's still, out there. Maybe she's haunting the cove," Jake added playfully, but there was an edge to his voice that suggested he wasn't entirely joking. Mark flipped through the pages, feeling a chill creep down his spine as he read about the girl's obsession with the secret cove. "Guys, we have to go to the cove tonight. It sounds like there's more to this story." Emily exchanged glances with Jake, uncertainty clouding her expression. "What if it's dangerous? Or what if we find something incredible?" Mark countered, his enthusiasm infectious. "All right, I'm in," Jake said, a grin spreading across his face. "What's a little ghost hunting among friends?" As the sun sank lower, darkness enveloped the beach, and the trio made their way to Lily's Cove, flashlights in hand. The air grew noticeably colder, and an unsettling stillness settled around them. The sound of waves crashing against the rocks echoed ominously in the night. "Do you hear that?" Emily whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "What?" Mark asked, straining to listen. "Those whispers," she replied, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. Mark shook his head, trying to dismiss her concerns. "It's just the wind." But as they ventured closer to the water's edge, the whispers grew louder, almost melodic, calling their names in a haunting chorus. "Mark. Emily. Jake." "Okay, this is getting weird," Jake said, glancing back toward the beach house, where the flickering light of their flashlights seemed to grow dimmer. "Let's just go a little further," Mark urged, his adventurous spirit refusing to back down. As they stepped closer to the cove, the waves swelled ominously, crashing against the rocks with an intensity that sent a shiver down their spines. Suddenly, a gust of wind whipped through the cove, chilling them to the bone. "I don't like this," Emily said, her voice shaking. "Maybe we should turn back," Jake suggested, a hint of apprehension creeping into his tone. But Mark stood firm, staring out at the dark waters, feeling a pull he couldn't explain. Just as he opened his mouth to persuade them to stay, a wave crashed violently at their feet, the spray soaking their legs. The whispers crescendoed, wrapping around them like a shroud. Let's go. Jake shouted, grabbing Emily's arm as they stumbled back, the thrill of adventure replaced by a primal fear. As they turned to flee, the chilling whispers faded into the night, leaving the trio breathless and shaken, unaware that their summer vacation had only just begun unraveling the dark secrets of Sandstone Beach. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden glow over Sandstone Beach as Jake lazily sprawled on the warm sand. The rhythmic sound of waves crashing against the shore provided a soothing backdrop to their summer getaway. He stretched his arms, basking in the sun's warmth, when his ears perked up at the sound of a gravelly voice nearby. An old fisherman sat in the shade of a battered umbrella, his sun-weathered skin resembling the weathered wood of his boat. His eyes, sharp and piercing, scanned the horizon as he recounted a tale to a small gathering of listeners. Intrigued, Jake leaned closer, signaling Mark and Emily to join him. Years ago, a man named Harold lost his hand to a shark out there. The fisherman gestured out to the ocean with a gnarled finger. He was a good fisherman, but that day, he was careless. They say he bled out in the water, and the shark took more than just his hand. It took his life, and his soul. Emily shivered, glancing at Mark, who raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched on his face. Just a story, right? He whispered to her, but the fisherman continued, undeterred. After his death, he returned to the waters, the fisherman continued, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. They say he's still out there, lurking in the depths. Anyone who dares to fish in his waters is cursed to suffer his wrath. Jake's eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and fear. That's insane. We should go fishing later. What if we catch a glimpse of him? Or be his next victims, Emily replied, biting her lip nervously. That sounds dangerous. Come on, it's just a story, Mark shrugged, trying to dismiss the growing sense of unease. What's the worst that could happen? As the sun began to set, casting a fiery orange hue across the sky, the trio decided to take a fishing trip. They rented a small boat, its wooden frame creaking as they climbed aboard. The ocean sparkled invitingly, but a lingering tension hung in the air, thick like the fog that sometimes rolled in from the sea. All right, let's see if we can catch something, Jake said with a grin, casting his line into the water. Mark and Emily followed suit, their laughter mingling with the gentle lapping of the waves. But as the sun dipped lower, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew cooler, and a strange stillness enveloped them. Suddenly, a dark shadow emerged from the water, catching their attention. A figure, a man with a hook for a hand, rose slowly from the depths, his eyes burning with rage. Did you feel that? Emily gasped, her voice trembling. Yeah, what is that? Mark whispered, his heart pounding in his chest as he strained to see through the growing darkness. The apparition's eyes locked onto them, and an icy chill swept over the boat. Get out of my waters, it roared, the sound echoing ominously in the stillness. Row! Row! Jake shouted, panic gripping him as he fumbled with the oars. The friends scrambled to navigate back to shore, adrenaline surging through their veins. The waves grew choppy, crashing violently against the sides of the boat as fog enveloped them, thick and suffocating. I can't see anything. Emily cried, her voice rising in fear. We need to get out of here. Just keep rowing. Mark urged, his eyes darting around, searching for any sign of land. The apparition lurked just beneath the surface, its rage palpable as they felt the water tugging at the boat, a powerful current pulling them deeper into the abyss. Suddenly, a loud splash echoed, and they froze, staring into the murky depths. What was that? Jake whispered, his voice barely audible over the crashing waves. I don't know, but we need to go now. Emily shouted, her eyes wide with fear. Just then, the fog began to lift slightly, revealing a glimmering shoreline in the distance. With renewed determination, the friends paddled frantically, their hearts racing as they fought against the dark waters closing in around them. As they finally broke through the fog and reached the beach, they collapsed onto the sand, gasping for breath. The sun had fully set, leaving only the haunting glow of moonlight reflecting off the waves. The laughter and joy of their earlier outing felt like a distant memory, replaced by the chilling knowledge that they had come face to face with something far more sinister than a mere tale. "Did we really just see that?" Jake asked, his voice shaky. "Maybe we should have listened to the fisherman," Emily murmured, her expression serious as they stared out at the dark, restless sea. The night held secrets that were far from over, and the horrors of Sandstone Beach were only just beginning to unfold. The sun hung high over the beach of sandstone, its rays glimmering off the turquoise waves, casting a deceptive charm that masked the horrors lurking beneath the surface. Mark, Emily, and Jake had already encountered unsettling tales that painted the beach in a sinister light, but it was the legend of the haunted surfer that piqued their curiosity the most. Mark, with his adventurous spirit, had stumbled upon this disturbing story while sifting through local lore at a small cafe, where an old surfer, wrinkled and weathered, shared hushed whispers about a talented young man named Danny who had vanished without a trace years ago. Danny was a prodigy on the waves, the old man had said, his voice trembling with the weight of memory. But one fateful day, he rode a wave too far and never returned. They say his spirit still haunts these waters, seeking revenge on anyone daring to surf where he once reigned. Revenge? What do you mean? Emily had asked, her brow furrowed with concern. He doesn't like the newcomers. If you ride his waves, you might just find yourself in a world of trouble, the old man warned, his eyes darting to the horizon as if expecting to see the ghostly figure of Danny materialize from the depths. "Let's surf," Jake suggested, excitement bubbling beneath his cautious demeanor. "What's the worst that could happen?" The trio stood at the water's edge, boards under their arms, the salty breeze tousling their hair. Mark's heart raced with a mix of thrill and trepidation. "Are we really going to do this?" he asked, glancing at his friends. "Why not? We're here for an adventure, right?" Emily chimed in, a determined glint in her eye. With a collective nod, they paddled out, the water cool and inviting. As they entered the surf, the waves danced around them, each swell pushing them deeper into the ocean's embrace. But soon, an unsettling change swept over the water. A powerful current surged beneath them, pulling them further from the shore. "Guys, do you feel that?" Jake shouted over the roar of the waves, his voice laced with unease. "Yeah, it's like something's dragging us," Mark replied, struggling to maintain his position on the board. Panic began to seep in as they were swept farther from safety. Suddenly, a shadow loomed beneath the surface, and a chilling laugh echoed through the air, sending a shiver down Emily's spine. "What was that?" she gasped, her eyes darting around, searching for the source of the sound. Mark squinted against the sunlight, his heart pounding in his chest. "I don't know, but we need to get back," he shouted, adrenaline surging through him. As they turned their boards toward the beach, a figure emerged from the depths, a man on a surfboard, his form indistinct yet menacing. He laughed maniacally, the sound reverberating across the water, sending waves crashing around them with violent force. "Go! Go!" Mark yelled, urgency lacing his tone as they paddled with all their might. The figure seemed to glide effortlessly over the waves, closing in on them with an otherworldly grace. With every stroke, the laughter grew louder, more sinister, and Jake's heart raced as he risked a glance back. "He's right behind us," he cried, fear gripping him. "Don't look back. Just keep paddling," Emily urged, her voice shaking as she fought against the current. Finally, with a surge of determination, they broke through the whitecaps and raced toward the shore, adrenaline propelling them forward. As they stumbled onto the sand, breathless and shaken, they turned to find their belongings untouched but eerily arranged in a perfect circle, as if some unseen force had orchestrated the scene. "What the hell just happened?" Jake panted, his eyes wide with disbelief. Mark stared at the circle of their possessions, confusion mingling with fear. "I don't know, but whatever that was, it wasn't just a trick of the light. We're not alone out here." Emily shivered, her gaze sweeping the horizon where the waves crashed violently against the shore. We need to figure out what's going on. This beach has secrets, and it feels like we're just scratching the surface. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the unsettling scene, the trio knew they were entangled in a web of mystery and danger, one that would lead them deeper into the haunted history of Sandstone and the restless spirits that roamed its shores. As the sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the coastal landscape, Emily, Mark, and Jake wandered down the rocky shoreline, their feet crunching on the coarse sand. The ocean whispered secrets as the waves lapped rhythmically against the rocks, but an unsettling chill lingered in the air. It was in this moment that Emily's gaze was drawn to a tide pool nestled among the jagged stones. Its surface shimmered, but the depths below seemed to swirl with an otherworldly energy. "Hey, check this out!" Emily called, her voice echoing slightly in the stillness. As Mark and Jake approached, they noticed a collection of strange, decaying trinkets scattered around the pool. Shells, bits of glass, and what appeared to be small, rusted toys lay partially submerged in the murky water. Carved into the rock above them was a warning: "Disturb not the waters, for a curse shall befall those who trespass." "Looks like something out of a horror movie," Jake chuckled nervously, his eyes darting between the tide pool and the warning. "I mean, who actually believes in curses?" "Maybe we should heed the warning," Mark suggested, his brow furrowing. "It's probably just some old wives' tale, but still." "Come on, don't be such a wuss," Jake scoffed. Ignoring the warning, he leaned over the edge of the tide pool, his eyes catching sight of a beautiful conch shell glimmering beneath the surface. "Look at this. It's stunning." Without waiting for a response, he plunged his hand into the water, retrieving the shell with a triumphant grin. But the moment his fingers closed around the shell, his expression shifted. A jolt of pain shot through his hand, causing him to drop the shell back into the water. "What the hell?" he gasped, shaking his hand as if trying to dispel the pain. It felt like it was alive. "Dude, you okay?" Mark asked, concern flooding his voice. "Maybe we should get out of here." "Yeah, I'm fine," Jake insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. He turned to Emily, who was staring into the pool, her face pale. "What's wrong?" "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her eyes wide. The air grew heavy, and the sound of children's laughter floated in the breeze, mingling eerily with the crashing waves. It was as if the laughter echoed from another time, a distant memory that sent shivers down their spines. "Let's just go back to the beach house," Mark urged, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting to see something lurking behind them. The tide pool glowed ominously under the fading sunlight, a sinister beauty that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. As they made their way back, the laughter continued to haunt them, each peal resonating with a chilling clarity. "This place is seriously creeping me out," Jake muttered, his bravado fading. "Maybe we should just stay away from the water for a while." "Agreed," Emily said, her voice shaky. "I don't want to end up like, you know." The memory of Lily, the girl who had vanished, loomed over them like a dark cloud. They arrived at their beach house, and the atmosphere felt heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The moon hung high in the sky, casting strange shadows across the room. It was then that they noticed the tide pools outside glowing under the moonlight, a spectral light that seemed both inviting and threatening. "Is it just me, or do those pools look weird?" Mark asked, his heart pounding. "Like they're alive or something." "Maybe we should just turn in for the night," Jake suggested, trying to mask his own unease. "We can figure this out in the morning." But as they settled into their beds, sleep eluded them. The sound of the waves outside morphed into a symphony of whispers, and the laughter of children echoed in the distance, mingling with the crashing surf. Emily lay awake, her mind racing with thoughts of the tide pool and the warning they had so carelessly ignored. "Guys, do you think we did something wrong?" she finally whispered, breaking the heavy silence that had settled over the room. "I don't know," Mark replied, his voice barely a murmur. But I can't shake the feeling that we should have listened. Suddenly, a loud crash sounded from outside, jolting them upright. Heart pounding, Jake rushed to the window, peering out into the night. The tide pools shimmered ominously, and for a brief moment, he thought he saw figures dancing among the waves. "What the hell is happening?" he breathed, his voice trembling. "Maybe we should go check it out," Emily suggested, though her tone was uncertain. "Are you insane?" Mark shot back. "We need to stay away from that pool." But the pull of the tide pool was undeniable, a magnetic force drawing them toward the unknown. As they exchanged glances, a sense of dread settled over them. Whatever they had awakened in their curiosity was waiting, and the night was far from over. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange glow over Sandstone's weathered streets. Mark, Emily, and Jake sat in the local library, surrounded by the musty scent of old books and faded memories. They had spent the day uneasily piecing together the chilling stories that had haunted their vacation thus far. Mark flipped through the pages of a dusty tome, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Look at this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It says here that Lily's disappearance was linked to a series of sacrifices made to appease the spirits of the sea." Emily leaned closer, her eyes widening. "Sacrifices? You mean, like they had to give something up to keep the spirits at bay?" "Or maybe someone," Jake interjected, his voice trembling slightly. "It sounds like we're part of something far more sinister than we thought." They shared a look, the weight of their discoveries settling heavily between them. It was clear that the stories they had uncovered were not mere folklore, they were echoes of a dark past that still lingered around the beach. "Wait," Mark said, flipping through the pages with urgency. "There's more. It says here that the fisherman who lost his hand was part of the same community that turned against Lily. They blamed her for the sea's wrath. And the surfer? He tried to warn them but was drowned for his efforts. Why would they do that?" Emily asked, horrified. "What kind of people would sacrifice their own?" "Desperate ones," Jake replied, shaking his head. "They believed that by offering up someone, they could appease the spirits and keep themselves safe. But it just made things worse." A chill ran down Mark's spine. "So what they did to Lily, it's all connected. Each spirit is tied to a wrong that needs to be righted." As the last rays of sunlight faded, they felt an inexplicable pull toward the beach. The night was thick with mystery, and the ocean roared in the distance, as if calling to them. They gathered their belongings and headed out, the library's fluorescent lights fading behind them. "Are you sure we should go back?" Emily asked hesitantly as they reached the cove. The shadows around them seemed to stretch and twist, and an oppressive silence blanketed the air. "We have to confront this," Mark said firmly, though his heart raced. "If we don't, we might end up just like them." As they stepped closer to the water's edge, a sudden breeze swept through, carrying with it a whisper that felt almost like a name, Lily. The water shimmered under the moonlight, and in that moment, they saw her. A ghostly figure emerged, her translucent form illuminated by the moon's glow. She stood at the edge of the cove, looking both ethereal and sorrowful. "Join me," she beckoned, her voice echoing like a distant wave crashing against the shore. "Lily!" Mark shouted, stepping forward. "We're not here to harm you. We want to help." But as he spoke, the water churned violently, drawing them closer, threatening to pull them into its depths. "You don't understand," Lily's voice echoed, now tinged with desperation. "They sacrificed me to keep the curse alive." Jake grabbed Mark's arm, his eyes wide with fear. "What do we do? We can't let her take us." "We have to break the cycle," Emily said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We have to confront the truth and show her we don't want to be part of this." As they formed a protective circle, they remembered the strange trinkets they had collected from the tide pool. "We can use these," Mark exclaimed, hurriedly retrieving them from his pocket. "If these items mean anything to the spirits, maybe they can shield us." With trembling hands, they arranged the trinkets in a circle, invoking the spirits of the beach. "We come in peace," Mark called out, his voice strong against the roar of the waves. "We acknowledge the wrongs done to you and seek to set things right." The wind howled, and the ghostly figure of Lily flickered, caught between the world of the living and the anguish of the past. "You," she said, her voice now a whisper. "You can help me." As the water swirled around them, they felt the presence of the other spirits rising, their pain palpable in the salty air. The tension built, and they stood united, calling on the strength of their friendship, determined to break the cycle of suffering that had plagued Sandstone for far too long. As the moon hung high in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over Sandstone Beach, Mark, Emily, and Jake stood at the edge of the cove, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The air was thick with an unshakable tension, and the waves crashed violently against the rocks, as if nature itself was warning them to turn back. Mark took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. "We have to confront her," he said, his voice barely audible over the roar of the sea. Emily nodded, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "We came here to help Lily, not to hurt her. She's trapped in this cycle of vengeance." Jake looked between his friends, uncertainty etched on his face. "But what if the fisherman comes for us? We've seen what he can do." Mark stepped closer to the water, feeling an inexplicable pull toward the depths. "We can't let fear control us. If we don't confront him, he'll keep her bound to this world forever." The friends exchanged determined glances, and with a shared resolve, they began to collect the trinkets they had found in the tide pool. Each item felt charged with energy, and as they arranged them in a protective circle on the sand, they sensed the weight of their task ahead. "Remember what we learned," Emily urged as they completed the circle. "We need to invoke the spirits of the beach to break this curse." Mark closed his eyes, focusing on the warmth radiating from the trinkets. "Lily, we're here for you," he called out, his voice steadying as he summoned the courage within. "We want to help you find peace." The wind picked up, swirling around them, and from the depths of the fog, a figure emerged, Lily's ghostly form, ethereal and luminous. She looked sorrowful, her eyes reflecting a profound sadness. "Why do you disturb me?" she whispered, her voice a haunting echo that sent chills down their spines. "We're not here to harm you," Mark replied, stepping forward. "We know you're trapped. The fisherman is manipulating you." The moment he mentioned the fisherman, her expression changed, fear flickering across her translucent face. "He won't let me go. He needs me," she said, her voice trembling. "Lily, you don't need him," Emily insisted. "You deserve to be free." As if in response to her words, the ground beneath them rumbled, and the figure of the fisherman appeared, his form twisted and grotesque, a monstrous version of a once human man. "You think you can save her?" he sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "She belongs to me." Jake stepped forward, brandishing the conch shell he had picked up from the tide pool. "You're wrong. Lily is not yours to claim." The fisherman let out a guttural laugh that echoed like thunder. "You children know nothing of the power you're meddling with." As he lunged toward them, the protective circle glowed brightly, pushing him back. "We are not afraid of you," Mark shouted, feeling the energy of their combined bravery swell around them. "Lily, follow our voices. You can break free." With a desperate cry, the fisherman morphed before their eyes, revealing his true form, a twisted amalgamation of Mark's long-lost uncle, whose tragic end had remained a mystery in their family. "You think you can banish me? I am part of this land," he roared, his voice filled with rage. "No. You are just a shadow of the past," Emily shouted, her heart racing. "We will not let your darkness consume us." The trinkets began to vibrate, glowing fiercely as they invoked the spirits of the beach. Together, they cried, holding hands and channeling their love and courage into the protective circle. With a blinding flash, the spirits surged forth, swirling around the fisherman, whose form began to dissolve. You cannot escape, he bellowed, but his voice weakened, the darkness around him thinning. The friends felt the power of their unity pushing back against the malevolence that had haunted the beach for too long. With one final scream, the fisherman was engulfed by the light, and as his form dissipated, the air grew still. The ghost of Lily shimmered, her expression transforming from sorrow to peace. "Thank you," she whispered, before vanishing into the moonlight, leaving behind a sense of calm that enveloped the cove. As dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Mark, Emily, and Jake stood together, the weight of their experiences heavy yet liberating. The beach was no longer a site of horror but had transformed into a sanctuary of hope and renewal. "We did it," Jake breathed, looking out at the tranquil waters. "We really did it." Mark nodded, relief washing over him. "We saved her. And now, we can finally leave this place behind." Emily smiled softly, her heart lightened. "Let's go home." As they turned away from the cove, the echoes of past tragedies faded, leaving only the sound of gentle waves lapping against the shore, a promise of peace restored.